we had a very wonderful workshop and training on how we can develop our potentialities as research professionals. Professor Moses Muhumuza has elaborated on how best we can improve and become research professionals. Some members have not been able to come, but for me, I believe that there is what they call the open mind spirit, that whoever comes is the right person. When it starts, is the right time. And when it ends, it has ended. So, I believe that we are the right audience. We also have members online that have connected, and I believe we are working virtually, and they are also as good as people who are here. So, some of the members that we are meeting for the first time, or maybe some of the members that we are meeting maybe the second time or the third time, I'd like to introduce myself and also be able to give a brief background to the context of this presentation or this workshop that we're going to have today and tomorrow. Moses Muhumuza is my name, and I'm privileged to have been invited by the Deputy Director, because this was under his coordination, to come and share with you, today and tomorrow something to do with the continuous personal development as a professional researcher. You may be very well aware that in many institutions of learning, we don't find ourselves in a situation where we study or we are taught about being researchers. The other aspects that make research a profession are not usually talked about. In some few cases, people talk about research ethics, and they consider that one to be all that is involved as far as professionalization of research is concerned. Okay? Personally, I went through the same kind of training. But somewhere, where I will tell you, I found myself continuously engaged in research projects, research activities. And the number of intricacies involved in the research processes and learning from experience, I therefore found that it is important for someone to think of becoming a researcher professionally. Becoming a researcher professionally. Yes, you can do research, but the question is, are you professional? So what does professional research entail? So basically, that question is what we shall be able to answer in the workshop for today and tomorrow. How do you become a professional researcher? How do you become a professional researcher? So, for now, I'd like to hear from you what you'd expect to get from just one thing that you'd think that if you come here and you don't get, you'll have really wasted your time. Not two, not 2.5, but just one thing that you feel
is important. You feel free either to put your name or not put your name. And then after that, you can use any of the spaces you see on the wall, and you hang this expectation there. And remember, this is a workshop. I am very happy that the members expressed an expectation of how they can earn a living through research. I think it is something that is now starting to get into people's minds, that you can commercialize the knowledge, a bird, and they put it in their hands like this. So they claimed the hill up to the old man, the wise man, and they wanted to test his knowledge. They asked him that, is this bird dead or alive? Remember, he was a wise man. He was giving answers to all the questions that they would ask him. Dead or alive, just like this in their hands. So the old man told them that if I say it is alive, you are going to squeeze it in your hands and kill it, and then open your hands and say, you are wrong, it is dead. And if I say it is dead, you are simply going to open your palms, and the bird will fly out, and you say it is alive. He told them that the power or the answer is in your hands. So, even what we shall look at here today, the answers are already in your hands. What my duty is going to be simply is to make sure that those answers come out. But they're already with you. And usually, that is what many people don't know. That the power to create or to destroy, to be or not to be, you already have it. And nobody can take it away from you. Not the head of department. Some people complain, the head of department is interfering in my progress. No. The dean is interfering in my progress. No. The dean, the head of department, is somewhat very small compared to your destiny. There is already a grand reason why you are where you are. Right from the start, even why you were created. You have lived for like 30, 20 plus years, and eventually come and meet someone who you are working with and say that person is defining my career. Is it defining? No, no, no. Everything is actually within you. So that's when we talk about continuous personal development as a professional researcher. We shall be able to see you as an individual. You can decide to be a professional researcher, or you can decide not to be. In the expectations, what many people mentioned are actually extrinsic factors. They are actually things outside. They are things, writing a paper, publishing, making money, okay? Organizing myself, okay? All those ones are actually outside. And those things outside cannot be bigger than what is inside you. There is someone who said that what is before and what is before, what is after and what is before, they are nothing compared to what is within. So everything eventually starts with what is within. Okay? Starts with what is within. Ladies and gentlemen, as researchers, you need to understand one thing, that we don't sell beans, nor do we sell tomatoes. We don't sell carrots, we don't sell cement. We don't sell bricks. What we trade in as professional researchers are what is indicated here. Generally, if you are to be asked one thing, it is important to know that you trade in knowledge. We trade in knowledge. That means you cannot sell what you don't have. So the first thing that you need to gather as far as research is concerned, as far as academics are concerned, is knowledge. We have data, you can call it data, depending on where you come from, which can be processed before Kato comes in into information. And information is very important, not only for part of your research, but also information is important for your survival. Information is important for your destiny. Information is important for your career. Actually, it is information that drives vision. If there is vision without information, it will actually be daydreaming. Then you have information that can further be processed into knowledge, meaning that we have gathered an understanding of the application of information. And then, when we process knowledge plus application, we come to understanding. That is the interpretation. And then, experience generates wisdom. So as a professional researcher, eventually you'll have to go through the processes of acquiring knowledge. But the knowledge is not enough. But what is paramount is wisdom. That's why for some of the Christians here, but even Muslim brothers and sisters here, we find that one of the most important things that God or Allah treasures in is wisdom. I refer more to the Bible because it's the one which I'm more familiar with than the Quran. In 1 Kings, where God asked Solomon, "What can I do for you?" What did Solomon ask? Solomon asked for actually he didn't even ask for wives. People have talked about Solomon that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. In total, 1,000. No. He asked for wisdom. That I'm still young, I cannot be able to lead these people without wisdom. He didn't ask for understanding, he didn't ask for information, but he asked for wisdom. So that means when you have wisdom, as the Bible tells us, that God was very happy that Solomon asked for wisdom and said, because you have asked for wisdom, he will add other things. He will add you more wealth, he will add you more years for living, he will add you more respect as a leader among your people. And indeed, he got all those ones. But when it comes to our literary understanding scientifically, it is that when you have wisdom, it is a basis for other things. Through wisdom, number one, you can be able to earn. When you don't have wisdom, you cannot earn. That's why they say that a fool and his money are soon parted. That is one. Two, if you have wisdom, you can be able to relate appropriately, to relate with others, to relate with yourself, to relate intimately with the other people, friends, and professionally. They have seen people who have knowledge but have no wisdom, who have been able to who have failed to handle professional assignments in research, for example. Wisdom is very important in relationships. Our counselor here will tell us, I don't know her view about marriage and family, but for me, I believe, this is my personal view, that actually a relationship between two people can trigger them coming together emotionally. So we need an emotional trigger to come together. Eventually we can plan, we go and we wed. But for us to stay together, it actually requires wisdom. That is my view. I don't know what other people say, but for me, I believe that Marriage is actually sustained more by wisdom than actually emotion. But apart from the relationships that wisdom can bring, also the paramount important aspect of getting wisdom is to live. When you live, by living meaning a living entity, you and me, in the physical body, knowing what to eat, not what not to eat, knowing how long to sleep and not how long to sleep, knowing that you need to do exercise. There are a number of things that require wisdom to understand. There is a gentleman, unfortunately, he passed on now. I visited him, he's an old man. He was telling me that, do you know that sometimes when someone dies and they organize the last funeral rites, at the time of send-off, usually they bring the casket in the compound, that the chances are very high that where the casket is placed, there is a herb that would have treated the disease that killed the person. But because of the lack of wisdom, they did not know. So actually, wisdom is paramount. And that is why you find that we trade as researchers in this product. A very important product that actually still, for some of the Christians here, will remember that it is the only product that God had restricted humans from having their hands on. Still, when you read the Bible in Genesis, God said you can eat everything of the trees in the Garden of Eden, except the fruit from... There was a tree of good and bad. That is the tree of knowledge. It was the only one. And yet, here we have an opportunity to be able to harness. And eventually, when that happened, in the fall of man, still when you read the Genesis, God did not remove already what had been eaten. He did not do what already had been done. It means the tree of knowledge was eaten, and the humans, I don't want to use man because of gender aspects, humans were able to get the knowledge. Consequently, there were punishments which were given. To the snake, it took its punishment. The man also took, and also the woman took those punishments. And off we went from the Garden of Eden. But we went with the knowledge. Now imagine, you have eaten the tree of knowledge, you haven't been punished, but when you go, you don't go with any knowledge. The power still is within us to be able to harness that knowledge that we obtained from the tree of knowledge. And that is one of the most important products. Whatever you have seen and what you probably have not seen is as a result of knowledge. Creates and destroys. But in the process of destroying, it creates more. Because in physics, we believe that matter cannot be created nor destroyed, but transformed from one form to another. So, tapping into that knowledge is the trade of researchers, you and me. The question is, if we know this is our trade, do we trade in this knowledge? The answer could be yes, could be no, maybe, I don't know. If we don't, for example, trade in this knowledge, why? Maybe we don't have the knowledge to trade in. I usually challenge some people by asking them that if you have gone to school, for example, in the education system of Uganda, you take 20 years from the time you start school to the time you graduate with a bachelor's degree. You have acquired all this right from the time you learn about your body parts in nursery school. That's why you say, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. You know those songs. Hey, they were teaching us about our body parts. Right from that, then we understand, then we go out. Eventually, after 20 years, all that you have gathered, maybe members online, the question that is in the room is that I have mentioned that you cannot trade in what you don't have. That is true, and they stand by it. And Kato has given an example that sometimes we have brokers. The common ones these days around here are land brokers, or those ones who broke in properties and houses. You need the house, someone is going to link you. You need the house, but you don't know where it is. The landlord needs a tenant, but doesn't know where the tenant is. But there's someone in between who knows both, or who knows both. Okay? Even, for example, when it comes to research, you know a researcher, but the researcher doesn't know the organization which requires his or her services. But then there is a middle person who knows the researcher and also knows the organization that requires researchers. And then it can be able to link. So in that context, what is the middleman selling? The middleman actually is selling a service. You can sell a service or you can sell a product. These days, pastors have become rich. And I'm told that starting a church is one of a lucrative business. What do they sell? It is a service. And the promise for you to have a very good life after this one. And the people are always hopeful. So, meaning that even when you don't have what you would call a tangible product or a service that you offer directly, still in between the person who provides as a middleman a certain service as a broker is providing that service. Okay? Is providing that. People who do marketing, they don't market their products. They market the products of others. They know how to. And actually, you find that in most cases, the seller and the buyer don't know each other. So someone serves as a link between. So that is also that is also what? A service. If you are an academic staff, here, when you look at these levels that you have projected, do you have any uncertainty about where you fall? Okay. The first level here is the teaching assistant stroke research assistant. So usually that is the first level of entry when you're entering into the academics. From this one, you go to the level of assistant lecturer stroke assistant researcher. After that, you move to another level of lecturer stroke or researcher. Then you move to a senior lecturer or senior researcher. And then you move to a level of associate professor and then to a level of a professor. So the question I asked is there anyone who is uncertain about where he or she falls? Here, you already know where you fall. Now, these different levels were created as levels of appointment for researchers. At what level do you consider to have become a professional researcher? Is it when you have become a professor? Is it when you are associate professor? Is it when you are a teaching assistant or research? Academically speaking, one is considered to have attained the level of being a professional researcher by certification when he has obtained a PhD. Usually the requirement is that you have mastered the subject and you have extended the boundary of knowledge in that area. And the most important is that you can do independent research. So that's why in most cases, projects are required to be headed by people with the PhD. That you actually get a PhD as part of your research journey. So that is first level. So someone who is here at the end of these levels should be able to assess themselves. Okay? Because the criteria is clear. And before we look at this question, which I put in yellow, there are some other things that we need to think about. If you have looked where you are here, and they said everybody should be certain where they are, and they was very much interested to know that everybody knows where they are. So even those ones who, for example, are in administration, but would like to follow this path, they need to know what is the entry level. Where do I enter in to become and go through the different ladders? How long it is going to take to go through this? So that's why this question is, which level are you now? I think from what members have shown, everybody is aware of where they are. Not so. And where do you want to be? That is probably you. But there's someone who might be here as a research assistant and simply wants to be assistant research or research, and that's all. Why this one is important for us to reflect. Okay? And it would be good you know that you have notebooks. You note it. Where do you want to be? Because it's a commitment. If you are not certain about where you want to be, it will be very hard for us when we enter into the second session of this workshop about helping us to continuously develop as professional researchers. The first thing is, you know where the level where you are. As we go through the process of becoming a professional researcher, you'll see that you'll meet some of those people who will say, after all, for you, you are this and this. You cannot manage academics. After all, for you, you are this and this. You cannot publish a paper. So those must actually be, those ones are expected, they will be there. But can you prove them wrong? Professional as a researcher. There are sometimes people who go, if he has left Uganda, has gone abroad, or even is in Uganda, but the entire 5 years, what the person has done is only what? A PhD. Has not done anything else. So for me, between 2008 and 2014, I was teaching, I was supervising students, I was doing research, my PhD, and I was doing a lot of consultancy works. It is important to gather experience. Each experience counts. People look at the top, maybe the 6th floor, and they want to use a switch in an elevator. After 1 minute, they find themselves at the 7th floor. That is not how things work in real life. You have to go through. Then thirdly, he says that there is enough room at the top, but not enough for you to sit down. Sometimes people think, there is already enough room at the top, we don't need to be there. There is enough room at the top for everybody. But for an individual, the room that is there is not enough for you to sit down. So that's why it brings in the aspect of continuous. Because at any one stage, there must be what? Continuity. Okay. So I think now we can take, if there are any questions, 1 or 2, and then we'll have a break. Not so?